Welcome to Health 2660. Here we don't just talk about health, we tell the stories that heal. Now please listen to the story. Daniel had always considered himself a paragon of healthy eating. A culinary monk, perhaps. He was meticulous, bordering on obsessive about what he put into his body. Processed foods were anathema. Fried fare was the devil's work. He chose grass-fed beef, religiously cooked at home, and meticulously tracked his macronutrient intake. He spent hours each week poring over nutrition labels, deciphering ingredients lists, and researching the origins of his food. He was, in his own estimation, doing everything right. Yet a nagging unease persisted, a discordant note in the symphony of his self-care. He felt perpetually sluggish, as if wading through molasses. His joints, once supple and flexible, now protested, with a dull ache, a constant reminder of his advancing years. Though at 42 he felt far older than his chronological age suggested. His belly, more often than not, was bloated and distended, a gaseous rebellion against his virtuous dietary choices. And the question, a persistent irritating fly, buzzing around his mental space, echoed in his mind with increasing frequency. I'm doing everything right. So why do I feel like I'm falling apart? He had consulted doctors, of course, multiple doctors. Each one ran a battery of tests, scrutinized his blood work, and poked and prodded him with practiced indifference. The results were always the same within normal limits. A maddeningly vague assessment that offered no solace, no answers, and no solutions. They suggested stress management exercise and, ironically, a healthier diet. He wanted to scream. He wanted to tear his hair out. He was managing stress badly, admittedly. But he was exercising, albeit with increasing reluctance due to his aching joints, and he was, without a doubt, adhering to a diet that would make a nutritionist weep with joy. At least he thought he was. He tried everything. He eliminated gluten. He experimented with intermittent fasting. He embraced the ketogenic diet with the fervor of a convert. He meticulously tracked his sleep. He meditated daily. He practiced yoga. He even dabbled in acupuncture and aromatherapy, desperate for any semblance of relief. Yet the underlying malaise persisted, a stubborn, unshakable shadow that clung to him despite his best efforts. One crisp Saturday morning, seeking some elusive sense of well-being, Daniel found himself drawn to the local farmer's market. He wasn't planning on buying anything specific. He simply craved the atmosphere, the vibrant colors of the produce, the earthy scents of freshly harvested vegetables, and the reassuring buzz of human connection. He wandered aimlessly through the stalls, admiring the displays of heirloom tomatoes, artisanal cheeses, and locally baked bread. He paused at a stall overflowing with vibrant green kale and chatted briefly with the farmer about the challenges of organic farming. Eventually, his feet led him to a stall adorned with a hand-painted sign that read, "Pasture-raised beef. From our farm to your table." He wasn't particularly in the market for beef, but something about the farmer's weathered face and honest eyes drew him in. The farmer, a man named Jedediah, was a study in rugged authenticity. His hands were calloused and stained with soil. His face was tanned and creased from years of working under the sun, and his eyes held a quiet wisdom that spoke of a life lived in harmony with nature. Daniel browsed the cuts of beef on display, admiring the rich marbling and the deep, vibrant red color. He picked up a package of ground beef and examined the label. Grass-fed, it proclaimed in bold letters. Just as he expected. He'd been buying grass-fed beef for years, beautiful-looking meat. Daniel said more to make conversation than anything else. Jedediah nodded slowly. It is. Raised right here on our farm. No hormones, no antibiotics, just sunshine grass and fresh air. That's what I like to hear, Daniel replied, feeling a familiar sense of smug satisfaction. He was doing his part supporting local farmers and eating healthy, sustainable food. He was about to move on when Jedediah spoke again, his voice low and serious. You know, he said, looking Daniel straight in the eye, those grass-fed labels in supermarkets don't mean much anymore. That one sentence, seemingly innocuous, landed on Daniel like a physical blow. It froze him in place, the blood draining from his face. It was as if Jedediah had punched a hole in his carefully constructed reality, revealing a dark and unsettling truth. What do you mean? Daniel asked, his voice barely a whisper. Jedediah sighed a weary sound that spoke of countless similar conversations. Well, he began, the USDA definition of grass-fed is flexible. It basically means that the cattle have to have access to pasture for some portion of their lives, which could be as little as a few months. After that, they can be moved to feedlots and fattened up on grain corn and all sorts of other stuff. He paused, searching for the right word. Industrial byproducts, he finally said with a grimace. Daniel felt a wave of nausea wash over him. He knew intellectually that the food industry was rife with deception and misleading marketing practices. But he had always believed that grass-fed beef was different, that it was a safe haven in a sea of processed junk. But the labels, Daniel stammered, grasping at straws. The labels are designed to mislead you, Jedediah said bluntly. They're designed to make you feel good about buying a product that is in reality not much different from conventional beef. Most so-called grass-fed cows are raised on pasture for only the first few months, just long enough to qualify for the label. Then they're moved to feedlots and fattened with industrial byproducts, antibiotics, and hormone-packed grain. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Less than 1% of beef is truly grass-fed, he added. Truly raised on pasture for their entire lives, eating only grass and forage. Less than 1%. Daniel felt a chill run through him, a cold dread that settled deep in his bones. All this time, he'd believed he was eating clean, making healthy choices, and supporting sustainable agriculture. But the truth was, he'd been duped. The label had been lying. He had been willingly, and perhaps naively, participating in his own slow degradation. He bought a package of Jedediah's ground beef almost as an act of atonement. As he paid, he asked, "How can you tell the difference? How can you know if it's really grass-fed?" Jedediah smiled a genuine heartwarming smile. "You gotta ask questions," he said. "Talk to the farmers. Visit their farms if you can. Look for certifications like American Grass-Fed Association. And most importantly, trust your gut. Real grass-fed beef looks different, smells different, and tastes different." That afternoon, Daniel embarked on a new quest, a deeper and more demanding exploration of the world of food. He dove headfirst into research, devouring everything he could find about 100% grass-fed beef, sustainable farming practices, and the inner workings of the meat industry. He read articles, watched documentaries, and scoured online forums seeking out the truth behind the labels. He learned about the devastating environmental impact of concentrated animal feeding operations, CAFOs, the inhumane treatment of animals in these facilities, and the detrimental effects of antibiotics and hormones on human health. He discovered the importance of soil health, the benefits of rotational grazing, and the regenerative potential of truly sustainable agriculture. He also learned that Jedediah was right. The term grass-fed had been hijacked by the industrial food system, diluted and distorted to the point of meaninglessness. Most of the grass-fed beef sold in supermarkets was in reality only marginally better than conventional beef. Finding truly clean meat was not easy. The real stuff was harder to find and significantly more expensive. It required a commitment to seeking out small local farms that adhered to strict ethical and environmental standards. It meant building relationships with farmers, asking tough questions, and trusting his own instincts. But Daniel made a choice. His health was worth the effort. He resolved to prioritize quality over quantity, to support sustainable agriculture, and to reclaim control over his own food choices. He started by replacing all the beef in his diet with Jedediah's pasture-raised beef. He also began to simplify his meals, focusing on whole, unprocessed foods. He eliminated refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, and processed vegetable oils. He started cooking more at home, experimenting with new recipes, and rediscovering the joy of preparing nourishing meals. He even visited Jedediah's farm, spending a day learning about his sustainable farming practices and witnessing firsthand the care and respect he showed for his animals. He walked through the pastures, observed the cattle grazing contentedly on lush green grass, and felt a sense of connection to the land and the food it produced. Within 6 weeks of switching to truly clean meat and simplifying his meals, Daniel began to notice remarkable changes in his body and his mind. His joint pain, which had plagued him for years, started to ease. The bloating, which had become a constant companion, gradually disappeared. His mind felt clearer and more focused. He was sleeping better, waking up feeling refreshed and energized. And perhaps most significantly, for the first time in 2 years, his morning blood sugar levels dropped slightly, a hopeful sign of healing and a testament to the power of real food. The transformation was profound. It wasn't just about physical health, it was about mental clarity, emotional well-being, and a renewed sense of purpose. Daniel's journey didn't end with the farmer's market revelation. It was merely the beginning of a much deeper exploration of food health and the interconnectedness of all things. He became an advocate for sustainable agriculture, sharing his knowledge and experiences with others. He started a blog documenting his culinary adventures and his discoveries about the hidden truths of the food industry. He volunteered at local farms, helping with planting harvesting and animal care. He even organized workshops and seminars teaching people how to cook healthy, delicious meals using locally sourced ingredients. His life, once defined by a rigid adherence to dietary rules and a relentless pursuit of physical perfection, had transformed into a journey of discovery, connection, and purpose. He realized that true health wasn't just about what you ate, but about how you lived, how you connected with the world around you, and how you contributed to the well-being of others. He began to question the very definition of health. Was it merely the absence of disease, or was it something more, something deeper? He came to believe that true health was a holistic state of being encompassing physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It was about living in harmony with nature, connecting with your community, and finding meaning and purpose in your life. He also realized that his initial obsession with healthy eating had been in some ways a form of control. He had been trying to exert control over his body, his health, and his life fearing the inevitable uncertainties and vulnerabilities of the human condition. But true health, he discovered, was not about control. It was about surrender. It was about accepting the natural rhythms of life, embracing imperfection, and trusting in the wisdom of his body. He learned to listen to his body, to pay attention to its signals, and to honor its needs. He stopped obsessing over macronutrient ratios and calorie counts, and instead focused on nourishing his body with whole, unprocessed foods that tasted good and made him feel good. He also learned to let go of his fear of aging. He realized that aging was not a disease to be cured, but a natural process to be embraced. He began to appreciate the wisdom and experience that came with age and to focus on living each day to the fullest. He found joy in simple pleasures like spending time in nature, reading a good book, or sharing a meal with loved ones. He cultivated gratitude for the blessings in his life, and he practiced forgiveness both towards himself and towards others. He discovered the power of human connection, the healing balm of friendship and love. He found solace in the support of his community, and he offered his own support to those in need. He learned that true health was not a solitary pursuit, but a shared journey, a collective effort to create a more just and compassionate world. Years passed. Daniel continued to advocate for sustainable agriculture, to share his knowledge and experiences with others, and to live a life of purpose and meaning. He grew older, his body weathered by time, but his spirit remained young and vibrant. His joints still ached sometimes, but he no longer saw it as a sign of decay, but as a reminder of the adventures he had lived, the challenges he had overcome, and the wisdom he had gained. He often visited Jedediah's farm, helping out with the chores and sharing stories over cups of steaming coffee. He marveled at the resilience of the land, the beauty of the animals, and the unwavering dedication of the farmer who had opened his eyes to the truth about food. One day, as they were walking through the pastures, Jedediah turned to Daniel and said, "You know, I've seen a lot of people come and go through this farm, but not many change the way you did. You didn't just buy better meat, you let it change you. And that's rare." Daniel smiled, the lines around his eyes deepening. "I came here thinking I was doing everything right," he said quietly, "but I was just scratching the surface. Real food taught me how to live again, not just eat." They walked a little farther in silence, the late afternoon sun casting long golden shadows across the field. The cattle grazed peacefully in the distance, a picture of calm and contentment. For Daniel, this wasn't just a pasture. It was a symbol of renewal, of waking up from a long fog of misguided health advice and hollow food marketing. As they reached the top of the hill, Daniel looked out across the land and felt something he hadn't felt in years: clarity, purpose, peace. Health 2660. Thanks you for listening. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, be kind to yourself.